one event. It's something that will never happen again. We have this video rendering of we have the trees that are in the south lawn. We'll know exactly where the sun is until it sets. So all the logistics are done. And now it's time we believe that this is going to be the most watched UFC event ever. This is going to be the most unique, amazing night of our entire careers. So, the fighters are walking from the Oval Office and I bet a lot of the people that cover the sport and are fans of the sport probably never even been to the White House before, and obviously the fighters. So this is a really night. And when we go to do something, I like to deliver, and I like to deliver big. So it's going to be special.
Dana White just confirmed the White House card is done. And if you think this is just another fight announcement, you're dead wrong. This is the most calculated power move in UFC history, and it's about to destroy careers.
This is the biggest thing on social media now. Everyone's talking, that Chandler's out and Masvidal's in.
In my algorithm on Instagram, I have nothing MMA.
Right?
Literally nothing MMA pops up. Yeah, I don't listen to any of the goofy shit.
No.
No.
Is that considered goofy?
That's goofy shit. Yeah. So we've been kicking around a lot of ideas, and I don't know. Me and Borsari actually fly to DC this week and sit down with the president and his team and start walking them through not just the production but the fight card. We have like 3 different options on all the different production stuff and see what he likes and what he doesn't like. But let me tell you this: this event is going to be so badass and so unique and so special and so expensive.
Listen, when Dana says the lineup is complete, that's not casual conversation. That's a declaration of war. The matchmaking process wrapped up last week, and sources are already whispering about what's coming. But here's what nobody's telling you: this isn't just about booking fights. This is about Dana positioning himself as the most powerful man in combat sports, using the White House as his personal stage to prove that he controls not just fighters, but the entire political landscape of entertainment. Think about it. What other sports promoter gets to use the most recognizable building in America as their venue? This is Dana flexing muscles that go way beyond the octagon.
It's not this is not the final card.
I didn't say it was done.
Because
replay.
He said the card was built.
Card's done.
Okay, Rick? That's what he said.
Then Trump
He didn't
goes,
say
I don't like this, I don't like that.
Beating up babies.
Trump is gonna see the card and be like, "Where's Derek Lewis?"
And Conor McGregor is not fighting Derek Lewis, according to this.
We're going to need to make a couple changes. We're going to need Conor versus Derek, at least in the headliner.
Twice.
And then I don't see myself versus 1,000.
And get this, Topuria versus Geithj is your main event, and this matchup is absolutely diabolical. We're talking about Ilia Topuria, the undefeated Georgian assassin who just dismantled Max Holloway like he was a regional fighter, going up against Justin Geithj, the human highlight reel who turns every fight into a war zone. But here's where it gets wild. Geithj hasn't faced this level of surgical precision in his entire career. Sure, he's been in wars with legends, but Topuria represents something completely different. This isn't a brawler who's going to stand and trade. This is a calculated killer who picks you apart piece by piece while you're trying to figure out what hit you. Geithj's whole game plan revolves around dragging you into deep water and drowning you with volume and pressure. But what happens when he's facing someone who can end the fight with a single counter shot?
Baron, throw that jab out, Baron. Come on. Man, live, breathe, and die by it. So we have no idea who's going to be on it still. We don't even know who's going to be on UFC 327 in April. That's neither here nor there. We don't have any main event.
No, but the whole fucking sport the whole promotion is being held up by this. There's no title fights booked. There's nothing. So are all of them happening?
A fantastic point. No title fights booked right now. We've only had one undisputed title fight in 2026.
But wait, it gets absolutely insane when you factor in the venue. This isn't Vegas. This isn't Madison Square Garden. This is the White House. Do you understand the psychological warfare that's already happening? Every single media outlet in the world will be covering this. CNN, Fox News, ESPN, international broadcasters, everyone. The fighters aren't just dealing with championship pressure anymore. They're dealing with the weight of representing combat sports on the biggest political stage in America. Topuria, who's been ice cold in every big moment so far, is about to face pressure that no fighter in UFC history has ever experienced. And Gith, this is his third shot at championship gold, and he knows there won't be a fourth. The mental game started the moment Dana made this announcement, and one of these guys is already cracking.
Post earlier, the 1, 2, 3, let's go. He wants to be on the White House card. Gable Steveson, if he wins in emphatic fashion, he wants to be on the White House card. Sean O'Malley posted a video about what his next fight could be. Here's what he had to say.
I'm ready to fight Jan. Me versus Jan at the White House. Like, what the fuck else are you gonna do? What the fuck else is there to do? I hope you knock out Jan. I will. Sugar versus Peter with co-main event. That's what I'm talking about. Shit, boy.
Here's the kicker, though. Dana isn't just booking a fight. He's engineering the perfect storm of chaos. Think about the preparation these camps are going through right now. Weight cuts, sparring sessions, game planning, all while knowing that one mistake on this stage doesn't just cost you a fight. It obliterates your legacy in front of the most powerful people in the world. Topuria's been untouchable so far, but he's never faced someone like Gith, who thrives on turning technical fighters into desperate brawlers. Meanwhile, Gith is looking at a fighter who just proved he can end legendary careers with surgical precision. The mind games are already destroying both of them, and they haven't even signed the bout agreements yet.
Be a place for a guy that can represent America. You know, I feel like I don't think there's one American champion right now besides Gaethje, but he's kind of the interim. So if the White House happens for me, it happens for me. You know, if it doesn't, I keep moving on, and the next thing will come, and the next big thing will arise for me. But I would love to be on the White House card. That would mean a lot, but it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen.
He talks about being an American champion. It's not just the American champions that want on. Your 170-pound champion, Islam Makhachev, he talked about being on the White House card as well. Here's what he had to say.
Let's do it. I tell them I will be ready soon.
And hold up, let me tell you what's really happening behind the scenes. This White House card isn't just about the fights. It's about Dana proving he's transcended sports promotion and become a legitimate political power player. He's not just selling pay-per-views anymore. He's selling influence, access, and the ability to command attention from the highest levels of government. Every other promoter in combat sports is watching this and realizing they're not even playing the same game. Dana just moved the goalposts so far that nobody else can even see them. Boxing promoters, Bellator, won championship. They're all scrambling to figure out how to compete with someone who's booking events at the White House.
We will make the fighting in White House. I want to be in history.
All right, so we're getting everyone and their brothers and sisters calling for the White House card. The sport is literally on hold. Everyone's like, why do you keep talking about the White House card? It's like, because every single athlete and promoter is talking about it as well. So we get the Dana White. It's built. You know, we're going to go pass it by Trump, everything like that. We got a couple of options to go. Then we also get a tweet from Alvaro Colmenero at Colmenero on X, and he reports the plan that the UFC is trying to make involves Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje as the main of...
Now listen to this part, because it gets even crazier. The stylistic matchup between Topuria and Gaethje is designed to create maximum chaos. You've got Topuria's surgical striking and fight IQ going up against Gaethje's relentless pressure and knockout power. But here's what the casual fans don't understand. Gaethje's biggest weapon isn't his punching power. It's his ability to drag elite fighters into ugly, desperate situations where technique goes out the window, and it becomes about who wants it more. He did it to Tony Ferguson, he did it to Donald Cerrone, and he's going to try to do it to Topuria. The question is whether Topuria's mental strength can withstand that kind of sustained assault, especially with the entire world watching from the most pressure-packed venue in sports history.
Would that White House standard for you guys, main event?
I think it is. I think it is one of the best fighters in the world. I'd love to see him back there. I think it's great. I know a lot of people, first time I spoke about this, the idea of these two fighting at the White House, a lot of people were annoyed because I was like, is this the look America wants? You know, because I have a feeling I know who's going to win that one. No disrespect to Gaethje, I just think Ilia is the fucking man at the moment. Love that fight, honestly. What do you think, Rick, as an American?
I don't care about the patriotism aspect.
This is meant to be about America.
But here's where it gets absolutely wild. The political implications of this event go way beyond just entertainment. Dana is essentially positioning the UFC as America's combat sport on the world stage. This isn't just about two fighters competing for a belt. This is about projecting American dominance in a sport that's becoming increasingly global. Topuria represents the new generation of international stars who are taking over the UFC, while Geethge embodies that old-school American fighting spirit. The narrative writes itself, and Dana knows exactly what he's doing. He's not just promoting a fight, he's creating a cultural moment that will be remembered for decades.
You last week said this would be a disappointment.
I think people on Twitter and Instagram and the wide majority of MMA fans would be disappointed with this.
They're very positive people, though, usually on X, I found.
They're also
especially
logical.
after the Tom article.
Logical, and
Critical
empathetic,
thinkers.
critical thinkers is this fan base. I think people would be disappointed with this being the main event.
Really?
I think it's good.
Yep.
I think it's good enough. I think the return of Ilia is going to feel big, and if you put it on the White House, I think people can finally kind of just like...
And get this, the pressure on both fighters is already reaching levels that would break most people. Topuria has built his entire reputation on being unbeatable, on having that ice-cold mentality that never cracks under pressure. But fighting at the White House, that's not just championship pressure. That's historical pressure. One bad performance, and he goes from being the future of the featherweight division to being the guy who choked on the biggest stage in sports history. Meanwhile, Geethge knows this is probably his last realistic shot at becoming champion. He's 35 years old, he's been in wars, and his body is showing the damage. This is do or die time, and that kind of desperation makes fighters either incredibly dangerous or completely reckless.
TV Monster, a statement. It's about delivering on a historic promise or expose.
Alex is out of the running. It's going to take some maneuvering to get there, but I still think John versus Alex is the most easy one to make. But if you have Conor McGregor versus anybody, I think that can take it to the next level. I would sitting here right now, I think they will get one of Conor or John. That's what I think.
You still think?
Yeah.
There's a potential for Conor or John.
I do.
Conor needs to fight. I keep saying it. This is like, I really feel like he needs to fight more than he has in a very long time, just to stimulate.
Here's the thing nobody's talking about, though. The mental warfare started the moment this fight was announced. Both camps are dealing with media requests from outlets that have never covered MMA before. Political reporters, international correspondents, entertainment journalists, everyone wants a piece of this story. That's time away from training, energy spent on obligations that have nothing to do with fighting. Topuria's team is probably trying to keep him isolated and focused, but how do you ignore the circus when it's happening at the White House? Geethge is probably embracing the chaos because that's who he is, but even he's never dealt with this level of attention. The fight might be won or lost before they ever step into the octagon.
I think he wants the PR week that goes with fighting, not only just for himself, but for all of the enterprises around him. I think more than ever, I think he will give this an honest-to-God go. Like, the other times he's been getting ready, I just didn't feel like his head was in it at all. And look, I don't necessarily think that it's ever going to be what it was. I was around that guy, and I thought he was the best fighter in the world for a very short period of time, but he was magic. Everything he touched turned to gold. We haven't seen that guy in a decade, pretty much.
So here you have it. Dana White just created the most high-pressure, career-defining event in UFC history, and he's using Topuria versus Geethge as his main weapon. This isn't just about who's the better fighter anymore. This is about who can handle the weight of making history while the entire world watches. One of these guys is going to emerge as a legend, and the other is going to have their career defined by the biggest failure in combat sports history. The mental battle is already underway, and honestly, I think we're about to witness something that changes the sport forever. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think Topuria's ice-cold precision can withstand Geethge's chaos on this stage, or is the pressure going to crack the undefeated champion? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe for more insider analysis, and hit that notification bell because this White House card is going to generate content for months. I'll see you in the next one.
Spirit. The other things that he's doing, I think the problem is going to be the contract. I think the problem is going to be Conor McGregor's expectations of what he needs to be paid, and the UFC no longer being in the business of paying that price is going to be the friction point. I don't think it's the motivation anymore.
It's a good point.
I think it's going to be the money. I think there's a world where they come to Conor McGregor and, like, you know, the Pawn Star.
But before you even think about clicking away, we need to talk about what this White House card means for every other fighter on the roster. Because Dana just fundamentally changed the power structure of the entire UFC. And if you're not paying attention, you're missing the biggest shift in combat sports politics since the company went public. See, here's what's really happening. Every fighter in the UFC just realized that their entire career trajectory now depends on whether Dana thinks they're worthy of these mega events. We're not talking about regular pay-per-views anymore. We're talking about events that transcend sports and become cultural phenomena. The fighters who get selected for these White House-level cards aren't just getting fights. They're getting access to a level of fame and influence that was previously impossible in combat sports. But the fighters who don't make the cut, they're about to find out what it feels like to be completely irrelevant in Dana's New World Order. Think about someone like Conor McGregor right now. The guy who used to be the biggest star in the sport, who could demand any fight at any time, is sitting at home watching Dana create superstars at the White House without him. That's not just a career setback, that's a complete power shift. McGregor built his entire brand on being bigger than the sport itself, but Dana just proved that he can create events that are bigger than any individual fighter. The message is crystal clear. Fall in line with what Dana wants, or get left behind while he makes other people into legends. And let's talk about the co-main event for a second, because this is where Dana's strategic genius really shows. Word is that he's looking at Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili for the bantamweight title, and this matchup is pure psychological warfare disguised as entertainment. O'Malley represents everything that modern MMA marketing is built on: social media savvy, flashy striking, and the ability to generate buzz even when he's not fighting. But Dvalishvili, this guy is the antithesis of everything O'Malley stands for. He's a grinding, relentless pressure fighter who turns every fight into a grueling test of will. The contrast is so stark it's almost comical, and Dana knows that casual fans are going to eat this up. But here's where it gets really diabolical. O'Malley has never faced the kind of relentless pressure that Dvalishvili brings, especially not on a stage this massive. We're talking about a fighter whose entire game is built on timing, distance, and creating highlight reel moments, going up against someone who wants to turn every exchange into a wrestling match. At the White House, with every major media outlet in the world watching, that stylistic clash becomes a mental minefield. O'Malley needs space and time to pick his shots, but Dvalishvili's whole game plan is to eliminate both of those things. The pressure of the venue amplifies everything, and one fighter's strength becomes the other's nightmare. Now here's what nobody in the mainstream media is reporting. The undercard for this White House event is being constructed like a chess game, with each fight designed to serve Dana's larger political and business objectives. Sources are telling me that he's specifically targeting fighters who represent different aspects of American culture and international appeal. We're not just talking about booking the best available matchups. We're talking about curating a card that tells a story about American dominance in global combat sports, while also appealing to the widest possible audience. Look at what this does to the traditional UFC business model. Normally, fighters work their way up through rankings, build their reputation over time, and eventually earn title shots based on performance. But Dana just created a parallel system where political and cultural relevance can fast-track fighters to opportunities that would normally take years to earn. Suddenly, being a great fighter isn't enough. You need to be a great fighter who fits into Dana's vision of what the UFC represents on the world stage. That's a fundamental shift that's going to change how every fighter approaches their career from this point forward. And let's be real about something. The international implications of this White House card are absolutely staggering. When Topuria steps into that octagon, he's not just representing himself or even Georgia. He's representing the entire European MMA scene in front of the most powerful political figures in America. A dominant performance doesn't just make him a champion. It legitimizes European MMA on the biggest stage possible. But if he loses, if Geith destroys him in front of that audience, that's a setback for international fighters that goes way beyond one bad night. Dana is essentially using this fight to determine which narrative gets to dominate combat sports for the next decade. But wait, it gets even crazier when you factor in the security and logistical nightmare this event represents. We're talking about hosting a combat sports event at the most secure building in America, with fighters who have trained their entire lives to be weapons stepping into a venue where every movement is monitored by the Secret Service. The mental adjustment required just to compete in that environment is something no fighter has ever had to deal with. Forget about octagon jitters. These guys are going to be dealing with the psychological pressure of performing in a space where one wrong move could literally create an international incident. Think about the preparation that's happening right now in both camps. Topuria's team is probably trying to simulate the pressure of the White House environment. But how do you recreate that kind of atmosphere in a training facility? Meanwhile, Geeth's coaches are dealing with a fighter who's never been in a situation where the stakes extend beyond just winning or losing a fight. This is career-defining, legacy-cementing, history-making pressure, and both teams are flying blind because nobody has ever prepared for anything like this before. The mental game started months ago, and we won't know who's winning until they actually step into the octagon. Here's something else that's flying under the radar. The financial implications of this White House card are going to reshape how combat sports events are valued and marketed. We're not just talking about pay-per-view numbers anymore. We're talking about global media rights, international broadcasting deals, and sponsorship opportunities that exist on a completely different level than traditional UFC events. Dana isn't just selling a fight card, he's selling access to American political power and cultural influence. That's a product that exists in a market with virtually no competition, and the profit margins are going to be astronomical. And get this, the ripple effects of this event are already being felt across every major combat sports organization in the world. Boxing promoters who used to think they were competing with the UFC for market share just realized they're not even playing the same sport anymore. When Dana can book events at the White House, what's the boxing equivalent? Madison Square Garden suddenly looks like a high school gymnasium compared to the venue Dana just secured. Other MMA organizations like Bellator and One Championship aren't just competing for fighters and audiences. They're competing against a promoter who has access to political power they can't even comprehend. But here's where the story gets really insane. The cultural impact of hosting combat sports at the White House goes way beyond just entertainment. Dana is essentially arguing that MMA represents the purest form of American competitive spirit, and he's using the most symbolic venue in the country to make that case. This isn't just about legitimizing the sport. This is about positioning MMA as America's cultural export to the world. Every other country that's trying to build their own combat sports scene just got put on notice that America isn't just participating in this global competition. America is defining what the competition looks like. So when I tell you that Dana White confirming this White House card is the most calculated power move in UFC history, I'm not just talking about the fights themselves. I'm talking about a complete restructuring of how combat sports intersect with politics, culture, and international relations. Topuria versus Geeth isn't just a title fight. It's the centerpiece of Dana's argument that he's transcended sports promotion and become a legitimate cultural and political force. The fighters are just the weapons he's using to make that point, and the pressure they're dealing with reflects the massive stakes involved. Every fighter on the UFC roster is watching this unfold and realizing that their career trajectory just changed forever. The old rules about working your way up through rankings and earning opportunities through performance, those still matter, but now there's this whole other layer of political and cultural relevance that can either accelerate your career or completely derail it. Dana just created a system where being a great fighter isn't enough. You need to be a great fighter who fits into his vision of what American combat sports should represent on the world stage. And that brings us to the ultimate question: what happens after the White House card? Because once you've hosted an event at the most powerful building in America, where do you go from there? Dana isn't the type of promoter who peaks and then settles into a comfortable routine. This White House card is just the beginning of something much bigger, and every other combat sports organization in the world is about to find out what it feels like to compete against someone who's playing by completely different rules than everyone else in the industry.